Namaste. Namaste. The God in me greets the God in you. Today, I'm going to talk about these three pictures here at the Temple of Universality. The Temple of Universality and you. Each one of you here today is a valued life stream. And that's why you are here. The temple is not a building, though the building we are in has extraordinary significance, as you will find out. The Masonic order and the temple itself are connected. Just as each and every one of you is a part of the temple and contributes to it, it is a living life stream. And each of you brings to that life stream your own beingness, your own truths. And this is who we are. And I wish to talk about these three pictures and hopefully shed some light on why those pictures are up here at the Temple of Universality. Some background on the temple itself. Reverend Betty I certainly didn't know her, but I could imagine what she was like at that time. Southern Baptist, born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Becoming a Catholic after having joined the U.S. Marines. Was here in Tucson and was assigned a topic to go and write a little story on a spiritualist church in Tucson, which was an experience she decided that would have a lot of information. Most people didn't believe in spiritualism, and neither did she, and she was going to write a story on the people who went there and believed and experienced such things. Well, 1979, Betty Tadaleski walked across into the sanctuary of the spiritualist church and was stunned by what happened to her. A message was given to her by the minister. It shook her to her core and was to introduce her to a life. That is why we are here in this room today. At the time, Betty Tadaleski was leading a course, or facilitating as she is, as Colleen is about to do, on the Course in Miracles. As Betty says, you do not teach the Course in Miracles. You merely hold the space, facilitate it, read from it, and allow the vibration to do what it is to do. The Course in Miracles is founded on the reality that there is no judgment, that each one of us remains as we were created, in the very image of the Creator himself and herself, the I Am presence of which we are all a part. While she was there in the little church later, Dr. Carlos Blair, who was channeled by the minister of the church, Dr. Robert Ireland, told Betty to take her Course in Miracles class back to Camp Chesterfield, and she did. This was Betty's first journey to one of the spiritual centers, the spiritualist centers in the United States. There were three. And this was her introduction into the big time of spiritualist phenomena. Trumpet readings, manifestation, bilocation, and conversation, direct conversations with the masters on the other side. She did not expect this, and neither did they at Camp Chesterfield. When the group showed up from Tucson, it was the first time the Ascended Masters came through at Camp Chesterfield. In that reading, Sanat Kumara told Betty that she would start a new religion called Universalism. She would travel the world, studying religions and philosophies of every kind. And today we're here, and Betty is not, except in spirit. For her body is in Israel, where she is doing what she was going to do as they told her. At the time, Betty said she didn't believe it. She was shocked. The last thing she said she realized was the world did not need another religion. There was enough truths, there were enough philosophies staked into the hearts and minds of mankind. it did not need another. They reassured her not to worry. This was to be a, quote, religion of another kind. A religious thought that embodied truths in everything, in all religions and all philosophies. That it would be 10 years, she would be an ordained minister. 10 years later, to the day, Reverend Bob Ireland ordained Betty Tadaleski. In 1995, this church, the Temple of Universality, was started. That is a picture, a symbol of Sanat Kumara. I wish to say a little about Sanat Kumara, for in the West we know little about who this spirit is, this entity, this consciousness. He is one of the 7 Kumaras. And Sanat Kumara has a special relationship to the earth. For he came out of a choice to redeem what was happening on this troubled planet. I think all of you know, as I know, this is not life as it was meant to be. I used to joke that Earth was some sort of cosmic outpatient clinic. Then the rest of the universe, life forms, loved, danced, grew, shared, and experienced without troubles as we do here. I was to find out that was not a joke. It was reality. But what I didn't know was who we were. Though we were in a state that I call EDD, egoic dissociative disorder. That each of us who chose to come here, would enter a state where the ego erroneously believed and perceived itself to be different from the source that had given birth to it, from the source through which it lives and moves and has its being. And that each one of us here, as we perceive ourselves to be a different from each one next to us, is in fact a version of the same. And what joins us is the love that created us. We are no different now than we were the moment we were created. And Sanat Kumara came as one of the 7 Kumaras to redeem the earth, to bring us back into the light in which we were created. When we say those words here at the temple, I am light, glowing light, radiating light, intensified light, it is an affirmation of that truth. And that is why we say it. It affirms who we are, not who we have come to believe ourselves to be. And in that eternal truth, we are redeemed. In fact, in that eternal truth, we were never separate, except in the illusion of our own minds. A mind so powerful, it could think itself separate from its creator. Think itself separate. But that separation never happened. We were never separate. And this moment, as we share this space here at the Temple of Universality, we are not separate now. We're coming back to the home we never left. We are as God created us, whole and holy. The second picture is of Saint Germain. And if you Google Saint Germain on the web, you'll find some interesting stories. When he came and appeared in Western Europe, people thought him a charlatan. Some did. Some were quite taken with this person. Called the Wonder Man of Europe. People asked him who he was. He was obviously a man of great intelligence, bearing. He would say, oh, I've lived for 400 years. Things like that. But the truth is, Saint Germain is one of the ascended masters who work with Sanat Kumara to bring humanity back to the light. That is why he is here. That is why his picture is here. Saint Germain was the creator of Masonic order. The order in which the Temple of Universality now finds its home. How these two pictures came to us, to the Temple of Universality, was through Walter Trashel. Some of you know Walter. He is right now today in northern Arizona with his home group, The Bridge. Word of Saint Germain came into the lexicon of present-day consciousness through Guy Ballard, the founder of the I Am movement. In 1930, Guy Ballard was at Mount Shasta. He was a seeker of the truth, and he was walking, and he encountered a young man. This young man began to have a conversation with him, held out something for him, manifested it in front of him, and Guy Ballard knew he was in the presence of some extraordinary being. That being was Saint Germain, who had come to tell Guy Ballard about the I Am principles. The I am that I am. When Moses was in the desert and was confronted with that burning bush, he asked the obvious question when it began to speak to him: who are you? And the bush replied, the voice replied, I am that I am. Words that are so deep to the core of our experience, words that are so deep to the core of creation itself. The 33rd degree, the initiation into the Scottish Rite, are the key words: I am that I am. The Masonic Temple, the symbol, one of the symbols of the Masonic Temple is the Pyramid at Giza. And what the Masons say is that each one of us is building that temple within ourselves. Each one of us is the temple of the I Am. So when I speak to you today, I am in the presence of your presence. You have brought to this room the I Am. You are the I Am in manifested form. And you have come at a very special time, because Saint Germain is bringing the earth into the Aquarian age. That is why he came and spoke to Guy Ballard. That is why Guy Ballard talked about the I Am presence. That is why Saint Germain brought to us the violet fire, to transmute and transform this outpatient clinic into the heaven it truly is. We are here at this extraordinary time. And I know that each one of you has had a life of difficulty. A life where I used to say we are in a lapidary, a cosmic lapidary that shakes and beats us against life itself to perfect and to bring to perfection the light who we truly are. Once having descended into materiality, we need to ascend back to the light. We are fortunate, in fact, that we are already that light. Each journey that you have taken, each moment of suffering, has been an integral step on that way back to who you are. The third picture that we have up here is of Bruno Groning. Bruno Groning was a German master who was born in the early 1900s, and his childhood, he knew at a very early age that somehow his presence affected those around him. Animals were not afraid of the young Bruno. People would be healed in his presence. He was drafted into the German army during World War II. He told them he wasn't going to kill anybody. I'm sure they thought, well, you may not, but you'll take a bullet from someone who will. He ended up a prisoner of war in Russia. And on his way back to Germany, told one of his fellow returning prisoner of wars about what would happen to him. Bruno said, someday you'll read about me in the newspaper. Someday you'll find out what I am about to do. That I will bring God's healing energy to this troubled nation, to this troubled planet. He looked at his fellow returning prisoner of war and said, what do you think of that? And the guy looked at him and says, I think you're crazy. He was shocked when 4 years later he read in the newspaper a person in Germany called the miracle worker. It was his friend Bruno Groning. Bruno had a power that could heal. He had a power that could transform. But he said, this is power not to transform everyone, though it can, though it shall. It is a power only to be used to transform those who are wanting to be transformed. Your desire to return to the light is critical in your experiencing of the light. The free will that God has given us is truly free. We can stand and wander in the desert for countless lifetimes, believing ourselves to be separate from our source. If you want to take that road, and we all have. But as the Course in Miracles says, even that journey has an end. Because there's only so much pain you can take. The state of separation is a state of suffering. Not that God wishes us to suffer, but any separation from the eternal love and light of which we are a part is suffering. Though you here at the Temple of Universality, Betty was told that everyone who came here was a teacher. It was a teacher. Years before I met Betty, when Martha and I met Reverend Hoyt Robinette, I sat down in front of him and he looked at me, closed his eyes, and he said, you are a teacher. I said, no. He said, you teach. I said, no. He said, you know things that other people don't know. I said, everyone thinks that. What I want to say here is this. I didn't know I was a teacher, though I was. I didn't know I was a true being of light, though I am. And we all are, whether we know it or not. The grace that brought us here is still here. And each of us has gone on a difficult journey. Why? That journey will allow us to shine that light into a world that needs it. There is no light in this world except for you and for those who are willing to shine that light in a darkened world. Unless you stand up for love, unless you testify to the truth of who you are, not in an egoic way, not to say, I have the light that you need. No. But to testify by the love of your very being. And how do you do that? Is to stay in constant contact with the love that you are. In each one of us flows a stream that is here at this very moment. Each one of us is the river itself. Namaste. Namaste.